We are back with film historian Joseph Scott. Joe, what do you have for us today?
Well, I know last week we talked about Stephen King, and, the more we talked about it, I think we need to talk about an area that's really important when you're going to visit different film locations. I learned my lesson 5 years ago when I went to visit this place right here. And it is the Amityville Horror House in Long Island, New York. Amityville. Going to the house, first of all, this is the house back in 1974 where a family of 6 were murdered.
So we're talking real life then.
Real life.
Okay.
They were blown away with a shotgun. A father, a mother, 2 sons, and 2 daughters were all killed in this house.
Murdered
by the son, who said that he had heard voices telling him to kill them. About 8 or 9 months after the events happened, the Lutz family moved in, and within 28 days, they ran from the house screaming, saying that they were running for their lives. They would not even pick up their personal belongings afterward. Now, they went through 7 polygraph tests to find out that they passed every one of these polygraph tests. There was a rumor going out that the whole thing was a scam, was a lie, and really what that came from was the guy who wrote the book, Jay Anderson, I think is his name, was upset because he wasn't going to get a bigger cut from the movie when the movie came out. So he started saying that the stories were fabricated over bottles of wine, which wasn't true. Now, George and Kathy Lutz have passed away since. One of the kids persists that things did happen in the house, who is still alive. I have his documentary, which is fascinating to watch. But it's a tragic story because the 6 people who passed away, and I think it was just last year, the son who did the killing passed away in jail as well. The story has always fascinated me, but it's also fascinated so many people out on Amity. Since 1974, the house has been ran by visitors over and over and over and over and over again, coming to visit the house, to the point where I tried to find this place about 20 years ago. And I was out there, and this is before GPS. This was all Thomas guides and trying to figure out what was what. And the people of Amityville purposely were directing me in the wrong direction to find the house. As I was 5 years ago with my GPS, you have to park the car 1.5 miles away from the house, or else your car is towed. So you park it way up the street and you walk down the street, and I did at 5:30 in the morning because I figured that's the time where I'm not going to bother anybody. It's light out. As I'm walking to the house, though, I start experiencing something. My chest starts becoming a little tight, and I thought, okay, this is just anxiety. So I started breathing and all this stuff, and I walked closer and closer to the house, and it just felt like this pressure, and I was sweating. And I was starting to get afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to have a heart attack in front of the Amityville house? By the time I was standing in front of the house, Jeff, I was spinning. I thought I was going to collapse. I wasn't comfortable at all. And I didn't hear an audible voice. I never heard audible voices, but I did hear, but in my head, it was like the message, get out. And I was like, okay, you don't have to tell me twice. I was there less than 3 minutes, and I turned around and I pretty much ran back to the car. As I was further away, the pressure disappeared. And what got replaced was this overwhelming feeling of sadness for the family that was killed, the DeFeo family. And this wasn't planned. I went, picked up some flowers, went over to the cemetery where the family's buried, spent an hour and 17 minutes looking for their gravesite in this huge cemetery. I couldn't find it. So I went up to ask, the lady working in the office if she knew where they were buried. She goes, technically, because you're not family, I'm not able to tell you where this site is. But since you're family today, this is her gravesite. I don't know if she read something on my face or whatever, but I went right to the gravesite. I put the flowers on the grave, and the remorse, that whole feeling was gone at that moment. Now, I've never had another ghost story. I've told you last week the stories that happened at the Stanley Hotel, and that was just this last March. I've never had any other kind of spooky ghost stories or whatever. And I know that people who have lived in the Amityville house stated, oh yeah, we've lived there and nothing ever happened. Well, there are some people who are more sensitive to that kind of stuff. But that was my experience with Amityville.
I always find it interesting that people that hear voices act upon what the voices tell them. I think it's got to be something more than just like we're out talking to somebody in public and somebody says, hey, go paint a house red or something. You're not going to act upon that. So I just wonder, hearing voices, why people act upon them. It's very strange.
It's really, we started going into, what is this, spiritual warfare? Is this the Lord telling me to get out? There are fanatics that go to this house. I had to go into this. There are fanatics that go into this house that will, and I don't blame the people for hating the story so much, because there are people who will rip off a piece of siding from the house so they have a piece of possessed home to take home as a souvenir. They will go in with shovels and start digging into the ground so they can have a piece of possessed dirt from the house. Wow. It's ridiculous. Plus, all the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and all the garbage that's all over the place, because people go out there and they have a picnic in front of the house. Even though there's signs that say no loitering, you're not supposed to just stand there. You're not allowed to. You will get fined. But people have had it. The people are just tired of these fanatics that go out there and, when you go out to these places, respect the property. Respect who's living in this area. There's no reason for you to be there longer than 2-3 minutes, really.
Show up, take a look, take some pictures, and go home.
Exactly. But prior to this, just the day before, and this goes into the next pictures, I went and I visited the Lizzy Borden murder house, where Lizzy Borden, the famous, took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, gave her father 41. This woman murdered both her father and mother with an axe. And I'm taking pictures inside the house. So
this is the actual house where the murders took place?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had this one girl lay down. I couldn't believe it. She laid down right where the mother's body was on the floor.
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that.
And then I went, I'm sitting here going, oh, that was terrible. But then I went downstairs. It's not the same couch, but I laid in the same spot, in the same position they found the father.
Yeah, I'm going to rebuke you, Joe.
No, and this is what This is all within 24 hours. Within a 24-hour period, I learned a very important lesson. I don't go to real life horror since that 24 hours of there's something that just isn't right about it. You're asking for it. Now you're asking for
did you
some whatever to creep up in. I had somebody ask me if I wanted to go to where Charles Manson met with his followers out in the desert, and I said, why would I want to? This is after my experience out here. I was like, why would I want to entertain that into my spirit? There's a difference, and I wanted to show you this. Okay, here I am. I've got this little bottle when I spent the night at Camp Crystal Lake. Hang on. Hey. Angry Mother's Bottling Company. It's a piece of water and a piece of the beach from Camp Crystal. But guess what? This is fake. This is not real. There's nothing real about that.
When you went to these two places, did you set out on a journey to specifically go to real life murder scenes? Is that your agenda?
No. See, that's what I learned. I went on this trip that started with Stephen King's house, and it ended with a filming location for Scream 4. And I hit like the Blob movie theater and all these other places. And these were just two places that were on the list. I never had visited a real true life crime location. After that experience, I will never, ever, ever do it again because it's stupid. Spiritually, I felt heavy. Spiritually, I felt wrong. Spiritually, I felt arrogant for saying, hey, I'm going to, I'll never do that stuff again. Never. So when I was asked to go to the Charles Manson location, absolutely not. Will I go to where Sharon Tate was murdered? Absolutely not. Will I go to, no. Am I going to go to a place where Ted Bundy killed all these women? No, I'm not. Why? Why ask something? You're asking for it. And I really learned from that experience. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up and talk about that today, because film locations are fun because they're fantasy. They're not true. Like I was showing you, the bottle of water, that's all fake. There is no Camp Crystal. There is no Jason. There is no. But when you're going into a place where someone was murdered, there's that. Oh, what's that called? Basilica House, or the axe murder house, where a family was axe murdered, and you can spend the night there. Why? Why would you do something like that? So I won't do that. I that's how I learned my lesson, though. Within 24 hours, I visited two places, and what I experienced at the Amityville house, you can sit there and preach. It's interesting. Atheists will preach how fake that story is. And the more they scream, they have to prove that there is no life after death. And that's where you get all these people who are like up in arms again, saying, oh, it's fake, it's not true, it didn't happen. And it's like, yeah, just keep screaming. The louder you scream, the more there's no way. Like, okay, the family was blown away with a shotgun in the middle of the night. Now, I've listened to shotguns go off, and those are freaking loud. They're really, really, really loud. Being there, and I'm not sure if I sent you the picture. It shows how close the two neighbors' houses were, and the neighbors' houses were packed at the time. Not one person heard a shotgun. Not just one shotgun. There were 7 shots that went off that night because the mom was hit twice. And nobody heard anything?
What time of night was it?
I think it was 3:00 in the morning. I think. I need to look at it, but it was in the evening. And it was documented that everybody was at home. And it's just, you know what? why do I want to go to a place where things like that happen?
Right.
Why do I want to let the possibility of something that was evil hit me?
Well, this brings up an interesting question, and I want to contextualize the question, not to be drawing back to our own experiences when we were teenagers and going to see horror movies, things like this. What do you think today the movies have gotten way too realistic? I think they're some movies are actually tapping deeply into the satanic. So it's moved us across the line. But what do you think the interest is for people today to see those kind of movies?
Because they're so direct, I like movies like Hereditary. I can't even say it.
Hereditary,
yeah. That's just pure evil right there. That's just and that's alluring to some people. The movies are so much darker today.
Yeah.
I went and I saw it because I was a fan of the original Omen series. And I went and saw last week the first Omen, and I was furious when I left there, because the reason I love the first Omen series is because they use scripture, they use revelation in the beginning, middle, and end. Part 2, scripture is just right out there on the screen, beginning, middle, and end. Part 3, beginning, middle, end. This one, no scripture whatsoever. Then they wash it down saying that the Antichrist is going to be a woman. And then they wash it down some more because the big thing was Damien was supposed to be born of a jackal. No, now it's a knocked up nun. But it is literally just so disrespectful. I mean, you're going to make a movie that deals with faith. Let's use God's word in there. Why can't they do that anymore? Why do they need to change the sex of the Antichrist?
Well, because Hollywood is satanic. I worked in the industry for 26 years. It is run by Satan. It is a satanic city. It's a satanic culture. It's a satanic industry. I'm not sure if I shared this in the previous show, but I was working on a kids show called Space Invaders, and I think I did share this, but I'll share it again for people that haven't seen the other video. I was building miniatures and building some sets, and I had drilled into my finger. I forget which one, but it hurt like heck. And I'm cussing up a storm, walking off the pane. I walk behind some curtains, and there's the makeup crew chanting, "Satan, Satan, Satan." I didn't know what to make of that. Maybe they thought it was funny in kind of a mocking way is what I kind of got from it. But it's there, and it's there big time today.
Yeah. I think people are looking for something to follow because our world has gotten so cloudy, and unfortunately, like when I was at the Stanley Hotel last March, and I'm running around taking the pictures, holding my axe and everything, there were 3 women who kind of was creepy as heck. 3 women. One woman would sit there and go, no, well, and then the 2 other women would chant her going, me.
The Stanley Hotel is from The Shining, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had these women who were chanting, and all dressed in black and I was just, I got so far away from them, I felt so uncomfortable. But I think people are looking for something to follow, and this is why we need, as Christians, we need to be opening up about who Jesus is, that he is our hope, that he is our peace, that he is the answer. We need to be sharing that with so many people right now, because there are so many people who are just lost now.
Well, he's got the ultimate story of the epic story of good versus evil, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, no, it's just I again, that's not you got to be careful. There's a lot of these new horror films I won't watch. I didn't watch the new Exorcist. Why? Why? One, The Exorcist I can't sit through anymore. I did as a kid, now as an adult.
So, have you seen Late Night with the Devil?
No. Why? It's a devil themed movie. I won't watch it.
It's I finally saw it on video, and it starts out as a documentary, documenting. Let's say that this movie had a lot of insight into Hollywood, and it was self-revealing in a way. The movie starts out as a documentary, fictitious game show host that can never get ahead. He's always one step behind Johnny Carson and never able to really break out. Until he starts pushing the envelope and inviting possessed people on his show, and they do a really good job of presenting the characters in terms of there's a skeptic on there that's not going to believe it for any reason at all. They bring into question the psychologist who has now started to believe that what she is talking to in this little girl is not just a split personality; it's something much different. So that I will say that they did a very good job in that way, and I think that people that do see it, you need to consider that these things are real, and what they presented in this movie I think is very factual. I think a lot of people can have similar stories to this that. You want to get ahead in the music business. You want to get ahead as a singer. You want to get ahead as an actor or actress, or as a movie director. You will sell your soul to the devil. You'll tell yourself it's okay.
At the Super Bowl, I don't know if you heard about this, but Taylor Swift, friend behind her, was doing all these devil symbols.
Yeah.
You did hear about this?
Yeah. I've seen the footage. I think a lot of people have seen the footage. It's there's no rationale for doing that other than you've entrusted yourself to something, and you don't hang out with and be cozy with and drink together with somebody that is overtly into this. And let me clarify this too. Like, Christ sat down with sinners, people he knew that need to hear the message and were at least open to hearing the message. That's much different than, I don't think we have any pictures of Christ sitting down with and having dinner and drinking together with those that are mocking him, openly mocking him. That's a different scenario. So, there's a lot to unpack from that.
I was just visiting my family, and my brother has a daughter that's 5 years old, and she loves Taylor Swift. It's weird. It's like, I mean, at 5, she's mimicking all the words that she's saying, and that's terrifying to me, knowing what she just did.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is enticing 5-year-olds. And this woman has friends who are casting these satanic symbols at the Super Bowl. And I'm like, wait a minute, come on. And I try to warn my brother, and they're like, oh, you're just exaggerating. You're you're looking into things that aren't there. And I'm like, no, it's right there in front of you. Why are you trying to explain that away? It makes no sense.
Yeah, in one of my previous videos, I covered Ellen DeGeneres and some of the bizarre, weird paintings that she's got in her house. And there's this woman, I forget her name, that all these celebrities hook up with. She's I believe she's kind of a Satanist. So it's actively going on there. There's a lot of symbolism. The devil is coming out of hiding. He's trying to make it hip and popular to follow him. And listen, I don't know what's going on with Taylor Swift. I mean, she started from a place of faith. singing like faith-based country songs. And but if you listen to her songs throughout her career, she's got real issues going on. I mean, listen to her lyrics. She's a nightmare dressed as a daydream. And she's got a trail of wreckage of past relationships with men. And yet she's skyrocketing. You know, I saw a video where, who is it? What agency? Some governmental agency was trying to recruit her as a spokesperson, kind of behind the scenes. Just, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the CIA. Just trying to push out messages through her, realizing that she has the power of so many followers to blindly follow her no matter what.
But then you've got the other people in Hollywood. Mel Gibson. Who's the one that's there? There are several celebrities that are joining him on outing what Hollywood is currently doing right now.
Yeah.
Who is there? There are a couple of big names that are jumping behind him because they're just tired of the crap that they're seeing.
Yeah.
And I would love to look into that more in the future. You know, that would be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Because I totally admire everything that Mel Gibson does. You know, I think he, you know, The Passion has got to be one of my favorite movies of all time. The movie poster has been up in my home since the day the movie came out, before the movie came out.
Okay, so that's interesting that you bring that movie up. Maybe it's a little more than a coincidence, because this morning, out of nowhere, I started thinking about the devil in The Passion. There was a controversy that arose, and this was a few years before memes became a big thing. But somebody grabbed a frame capture from the movie of the devil who looks remarkably like Obama.
I saw that.
And a lot of people in secular people, conservative people of faith, have all been talking about how they believe that Obama is the puppeteer behind the Biden. And then we're going to have this all revealed to us at some point. What I've come to know about the real devil, about Satan, is that he likes to brag. He likes to put his signature on things. And if you ever look into 666, you can find 666 in people's names, people that are no good throughout history, not just one guy, the number of the beast, one guy. I mean, it was, at that time, 666 was referring to Nero Caesar during 70 AD that just killed over, it was like 1.1 million people in Jerusalem, 70 AD, just wiped them out. I mean, it was darkest event ever to happen to Israel, to the faith, to God's land, his stronghold. So there's the stuff just gets built into TV shows. Satan's always trying to put his signature on something.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, you just see so much of it. Your eyes are open to so much of it. It's no longer coincidence. So maybe your brother will wake up one day. Let's hope.
You know, I just, you know, we're talking about earlier. We were just talking about houses. What about cities? What about Salem, Massachusetts? Because that's one place I went to visit, and I got out of there so quickly. I went there to see Hocus Pocus filming locations. I love the first movie. I went to go see the second one.
Who is in Hocus Pocus, the first one?
Hocus Pocus, the original one, it was Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Jamie, and it was a cute Disney movie. The second one I wouldn't even watch, but So I go into Salem, Massachusetts to go visit one of the kids is the main house from the movie. And I take my pictures. Boy, I got out of that city so quick. That city is so freaking dark. That it's they have something called the Witches Museum. I've been there twice.
The Witches Meeting?
Museum.
Okay.
Where they show about the witches, the witch trials, and the burning and the hanging of the witches that happened in Salem. And then they have the museum that's adjoined next to it. Well, I guess I do have one more ghost story because I went walking into the building and I hear this big crash the minute I open the door. You're curious, you want to know what the crash is, so you go down there to figure out what it is. And this lady is picking up a DVD and it's in pieces. It's broke, it's shattered. I said, "What happened?" She goes, "This just flew off the shelf. The moment you walked in the door, this flew off the shelf and shattered." I was like, well, and then I saw what the movie was. It was Nightmare Before Christmas. And she goes, "Do you know anyone that's been affiliated with this movie?" And I went, "My brother worked on the film." And she goes, "You need to get a hold of him right away. He needs to stop traveling. He needs to stop walking. And I was like, what is this?" So I called my brother. She grabbed the phone out of my hand. She goes, "I know you don't know me, but you need to stop doing what you're doing right now."
Talking to you or talking to your brother?
Talking to Anthony, my brother.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. So yeah, I guess I did have one more story in there. But
wait a minute. Is there any more to that? I mean, what was his response?
Nothing happened to him that day, but he did change his traveling, I guess, that day. But he thought it was kind of weird, and when I mentioned it to him, he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that." It didn't stick with him like the story has stuck with me.
And you talked to her afterwards, like what was? Tell us more.
She just said she had it. She goes. She said the second I opened the door, the movie flew off the shelf, flew across the room, and shattered against the wall.
What?
Yeah. And then she looked at me and she said, "Do you have anyone directly affiliated with this movie?" And I was like, "My brother."
Okay, that's really weird. Like what is her backstory? Is she intuitive to spiritual things?
She's a Wiccan. I asked her. She goes, "I'm a Wiccan. I'm a white witch." And all that.
And this is a store that you visited before, or what?
No, first time ever in their store. Walked in.
So this was just in a town you were visiting somewhere?
In that store, I didn't want to take home anything from that store. I was creeped out with everything that happened there.
And this was on your travel route to one of the locations, or what?
No, this was a separate location. There was 1 year where I wanted to have my. If you had to look at the one story that has gotten me into horror, and we'll talk about this on a later date, is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I love that story. Love that. It's America's fairy tale. Is what it's referred as. And so I spent one Halloween 7 days in Sleepy Hollow, and I had a blast. Those people know how to celebrate Halloween. They loved it. But then before I went home, I went into New York, and then I went up to Plymouth to see the main, to see Plymouth Rock. And then there's a monument that's also by Plymouth Rock that nobody talks about. We'll need to talk about this. It's a monument of faith and freedom of and in faith. And offhand, I don't know the name of it, but it's an amazing sculpture that nobody talks about. But anyways, then we did a quick trip to Salem, and We were supposed to be there 2 nights. I wasn't there 2 hours. I was like, I after that experience in the room at the store, I didn't want to be there anymore. Why? I mean, there's just pentagrams everywhere in that city. There's people saying that they're Wiccans, and why would you want to invite that into your? That's why would you want to invite that into you? Makes no sense. So, yeah, no. If the one thing I can press upon anybody, if you do go location hunting, don't go to the real life stuff. Or something horrible happened.
Yeah.
Why do you want to bring that invite that into your soul?
Yeah.
Because we're talking, this is real thing. This isn't Hollywood makeup stuff. This is real stuff.
Yeah.
And so you got to be careful. You don't. Why? I have people who've gone to where the Son of Sam was, the Night Stalker was, to where Charles Mann. I was in my niece came out one year who was at the time studying to be a nurse, and she wanted to go to the Museum of Death out of nowhere. She's not a dark person at all, and I'm like, why do you want to go there? She goes, no, I'm studying. I need to know this as a nurse, so I want to be the supportive uncle. So I go there, and I had no idea it is filled with stuff from serial killers.
Wow.
And at the end, as we're leaving, this guy's unboxing things, and he pulls out this guitar, and he goes, "Do you want to hold this?" And I'm like, "Why? What is this?" And they go, "It's Charles Manson's guitar. He just passed away, and he had it in prison." I'm like, "I don't want to touch that thing. Why? Why? I don't want anything. I don't want to be around people anything that were someone like that." There was like all the John Wayne Gacy stuff. There's all this. Why am I going to, Jeffrey? Why do I want to touch? Why? No. I want to stay away from that stuff as much as I can.
Yeah, and we need to be aware of those things in a larger scale in this world. Even people that aren't chasing those dark things, they might still be part of the culture of death, where they're obsessed with mass murder. I think we're going to learn a lot of things very shortly now about people that have been trying to kill us in the higher ups, the elites that have been trying to kill us. There's a real, very real culture of death out there.
And one last thing about the Amityville, and I told you guys I was going back to my car, which was a mile and a half walk away because of the zoning thing. The entire time going back to the car, I was so afraid. I reached out to the one thing that was going to comfort me and give me peace. And like I said, the closer I got to the car, that pressure went away. But the pressure went away not because of something that I did. It's because of what the Lord was doing. Because I reached out to Him. That was a horrible thing. Out of any of the stories I've ever shared, you could give me offer me $2 million, and I never will ever return to that house.
Yeah, for people,
I'll give you $2 million if you go back to the house. No, why?
For people that aren't familiar with an encounter with real evil, it's shocking, and it sends you to a place in your mind and in your spirit that you really can't identify. It's a foreign territory. And I just want to put this out there. We've talked a lot about death, and we've talked a lot about Satan and witchcraft, and those are all kindred to each other. But here's the thing about Satan. He is, a lot of people regard him as the yin and yang, the equal but opposite to God, and he's not. He is an angel that got so proud, one of the most brilliant angels, but he got so proud, and he tried to draw other angels to himself, that God just kicked him right out of heaven. in the place he was, kick him down to earth, where he is attempting the same thing. He is still trying to draw people to himself away from God. So you have a choice to make in this world. You can seek after good and wisdom and love, or you can seek after the one who's going to deceive you, that's always going to lie to you, that the one that's always going to betray you, that's going to sacrifice you as a pawn on a whim. That's the one you need to be worried about. These things are real. Don't chalk yourself into it. Don't let the evil one whisper in your ear and tell you, no, it's all just make-a-believe. It's not. You know it in your soul. You know it in your soul that God is real, that he created everything, and you know and you recognize that there is a dark opposite. Not an equal opposite by any means. He's just a created being. He's a peon. But we're in a testing ground here in this life right now, okay? We're given clear choices to make between good and evil. If we had a creator that didn't allow evil, didn't allow us the choice to choose evil, then we'd be robots. We just, there'd be nothing. So we're in a testing ground right now. We're here trying to knock, we're on a game show, so to speak. I don't want to reduce it to that kind of a simple term. But are we after behind what's door number 1 or door number 2? And they are clearly labeled. And Joe, I've hijacked a portion of this segment. You have some more to share with us.
No. I was totally agreeing with 100% of everything that you were saying. For those of you who are watching these episodes and you're like, hey, I want to go look at this place. Again, pray before you go. Pray while you're there. Pray afterwards. You don't need, just bring the Lord into your travels.
And just to be clear, your obsession with film locations is not tied to just visiting horror locations. You have a lot of different films that you love, especially a lot of films out of the 80s. We both love films from the 80s. There's a certain
right.
shine,
I mean, I've been
genuineness about them.
I've been to Breakfast Club. I've been to 16 Candles. I've been to Ferris Bueller. A big chunk, Home Alone, a lot of John Hughes movies, a lot of Christmas movies. I've been to the Christmas Story house. I've been to Jeff.
Do you own the leg lamp?
Been to the Bradbury Building before?
I have. I was lucky to be inside twice. I think it was. This would have been late 80s or early 90s. I think.
I just missed.
So Joe's talking about hold on a second,
there.
Joe. So Joe's talking about the Bradbury Building, which is J.F. Sebastian's apartment building in the first movie, Blade Runner.
Yep. So I mean, there's no, and then on top of everything else, is it horror that I'm after? No. What these movies represent, when I was growing up in 1981, 1982, 1983, the movies that were popular and were big with our group of friends, not just with our group of friends, but everything, those were the biggest years for horror.
Yeah, well,
you had American.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about Blade Runner there for a minute in the Bradbury Building. It's been taken over by attorneys now. It's in downtown Los Angeles. It's a beautiful building with wrought iron ceilings and a giant what's it called? The skylight. The roof is literally a roof of glass. So a lot of what you see in that movie, just some movie trivia, is this crew came in and trashed that building. This is a functional building with today is all attorneys and things. They watered it down and strewn cardboard everywhere and dripping. And every night they'd have to clean it up because the next day people had work to go. And so what you see in the movie is shot nighttime, and during the daytime, it's just, you wouldn't believe what was shot the night before. Beautiful building inside.
there still is one really cool um, business that's still in the Bradbury building, though, and that is Marvel Comics, not the movies. Marvel Comics are in there.
The headquarters for Marvel Comics.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, I these movies that I go visit, they trigger my memories with my friends. They trigger my memories with my family. They, it is more of a nostalgia. It's not about the films themselves. It's more of who I was with, where I was at at that time in my life. Growing up in the early '80s is priceless to me. It really was a wonderful time in my life.
Yeah, I was just telling
So
somebody
that's why
that the other day. I mean, the 80s were great times. I was blissfully ignorant at that point in life. I knew nothing about real evil and politics or anything, and we were just having fun. It was a great time.
Yeah, I when I went home and I opened my mom's closet, my long big old jacket that I used to wear in high school was still hanging in the closet.
Wow.
So I grabbed it and went to Chicago and went to the school for Breakfast Club right away.
Oh, no. It was trench coat?
Well, we talk about that on another thing, but yeah. No. And the cool thing was I brought my two nieces in with me. So I could bring my nieces into that memory. And so now they watch Breakfast Club and they go, "Hey, we were there." It's cool. It's cool. We'll talk about that on another date. But there's so many reasons why I think I like what I like. But anyways.
Well, I mean, the thing with 80s films is I think they tended to be more genuine. They weren't so ultra polished as pretty much all films are today. It was more about characters.
The directors be directors, and they let the visionaries of a movie. They didn't interfere and go, "Hey, you need to add this, or you need to add this type of person," or they let them just make film.
Yeah,
they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and they really focused on finding people that were character actors. Today we just look for beautiful people, and they spit out a few lines. Okay, they were cast. But especially John Hughes, he had a real knack for finding young talent that people would identify with. Characters that were quirky, that we could all see a little bit of ourselves inside of. Maybe we could do a whole segment on Breakfast Club sometime.
Or do a whole segment on how John Hughes made the careers of a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah.
In thing right now in Hollywood that to bash the people that helped you, whether it be the cast of Roseanne who leashed out and attacked her, whether it be some of the cast members from Breakfast Club saying what a horrible person John Hughes was. I'm like, what? Where is all this coming from? Why is this the new craze to bash what was before you?
I think it goes beyond that. I'm seeing that a lot in the different companies and agencies and things that I work for. Hollywood was and is, and much worse now, I'm sure, notorious for rushing anybody that would mildly accidentally shed light on their insufficiencies. Because everybody in Hollywood, you've heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. That's who Hollywood is. They are fake. Everybody, listen, people in the crew, we call them below the line. People that are setting up a craft services table where we go over and have a bagel. People that are dragging out lights, assembling them high in the sky. People that are doing makeup. Those people are not the people that are stepping on others to climb to the top. Sometimes it happens, yeah. the people you see at the very, very top, these are people that would step on people's faces to climb a mountain of bodies to get to where they wanted to be. And there's a lot of darkness behind that. But yeah, anytime you shine a light just by merely being competent and capable and accidentally exposing the shortcomings of somebody else that's trying to fake it until they make it, that's not only Hollywood, that's in government, that's in the TV news industry. I got stories. I'm not going to share them here, but maybe somewhere at some point.
Yeah.
Joe, any final closing thoughts? Anything we didn't get to you really wanted to talk about?
Just bring the Lord into whatever you do, guys. Don't, you know what? The Lord is there. He wants to. He just doesn't want to be a part of your life. He wants to be the center of your life. Put him in the center of everything. It's the best advice I can give at anybody, I think.
Yeah. Right. Well, Joe, thanks for joining us today. I look forward to doing the next segment again. Is there anything you want to share for the next video? What do you think? Anything you can tease this with?
I think you know what? It might be interesting because we're talking about the 80s. I think the next segment might be us looking at where I've gone to the Universal classics, where Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Creature of the Black Lagoon. They've tried to remake these movies and they can't touch perfection.
Yeah.
And this is before all of this crap was thrown in there.
Yeah.
These movies are fantastic. So walking into horror cinema history, it was outstanding. So I think that's what we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, I think it was on Sunday mornings. They used to run like the Abbott and Costello series. So it was Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy, Abbott and Costello meet the Dracula. Mm-hmm. I think I like those maybe more than actually those old movies themselves because they're so iconic. But
there's a lot that I would love to, definitely talk about because there's just I have so much respect for the movies that were made in the 30s and the 40s. I really do. The comedies of Abbott and Costello. That was 1951, I think, when Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And I've been to locations from that movie. Actually, I work next door to Dracula's castle.
And
you
and I have both been to Forrest J. Ackerman's house. That he was the.
No, I didn't go with you on that one.
What's that? Oh, you've never been
on that one.
Oh, so Forrest J. Ackerman.
It's been all pieced out, sold out.
Oh, yeah. Forrest J. Ackerman. He created the famous monster egg. His entire house was, I think, like 3 stories. But you go to his house and he would let you in and give you a tour. There's some cool Hollywood stories.
That's amazing. You had the opportunity to do that. Wow.
Well, I think I knew somebody personally that had a better relationship or had a close relationship with him. I don't recall the circumstances at the time. It was in the early 80s or mid 80s somewhere. So.
Wow.
Anyways, Joe, thank you for joining us again today. I'm excited to get this one up. I think this one was really fun today. And the next one's going to be a lot more fun, I think. Joseph Scott, film historian, thank you for joining us.